Have you ever said anything like, we need to watch the news in order to become a well-informed citizen, or something to that effect? You need to listen to the radio in order to be a well-informed citizen, or whatever it is. Have you ever said a statement where you want to do an action that results in a specific purpose? That's called an action purpose statement. And it's very similar to the last session that we spoke about when we talked about action result. There's a slight nuance, there's a slight difference between action result and action purpose. So let's look at that really quick, and we'll kind of pick apart what the difference is between action result and action purpose. And we'll also look at a scripture and see how we can identify it in scripture. If we're going to make a definition of what action purpose is, it could be defined this way: an action and another action that is intended as a result. The symbol that we're going to use to mark an action purpose is AC for the action and PUR for the purpose. The key words that we're going to be looking for are very similar to action result, but they have a little bit different connotation. The words are in order that, lest, to the end that. Now you'll notice many that's in that list, and that's very similar to action result. The key words in action result are so that, with the result that. So those are very similar to action purpose. Action result and action purpose are very similar, and we're going to look at how to tell the difference between those in just a moment. But if we're going to see an action purpose in Scripture, we can look at 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 6. 1 Peter 5, verse 6 says this: "Humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, so that he might lift you up," or may lift you up, according to your translation. We're going to separate this into prepositions. There should be two. We say, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, and then we see our identifying key word, so that. So we're going to circle that, and we're going to separate the preposition there, so that he may lift you up. So you're going to write justify it, and you're going to separate it under prepositions. You should have two. One being humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, and the second, so that he may lift you up. So how do we connect proposition 1 to proposition 2? The action is humbling yourself under the mighty hand of God. That's the action. Here's the purpose. Here's the reason that you're wanting to humble yourself. Here's the intentional reason you humble yourself. It's not random. It's done on purpose. You do it so that God may lift you up. So the action is humbling yourself under the mighty hand of God with the purpose, with the intentional purpose, that he may lift you up. So note, action result and action purpose may look very similar, since the connecting words may often be very similar. The way to distinguish them is to remember that in an action result, the consequence or result accompanies the action, like a boat being swamped as a result of a storm. We saw that in our last session. In an action purpose, one action is intended to come as a result of another action. Still, with the distinction, it can be difficult to tell the difference. It just has to come with practice. Now, another way to distinguish between action result and action purpose could be similar to this. The difference between an action result and an action purpose is there's intentionality with an action purpose. With an action purpose, there's intentionality. You mean to do it on purpose. An action result, however, there are just actions and results. It could be completely random. There's an action, and then there's a result, and it doesn't have anything to do with intentionality at all. It just is what it is. But an action purpose, the action being accomplished is being done so with the intentional purpose for a specific outcome. There's a specific purpose that the action is being taken place. So that's an action purpose. It's very similar to an action result in the fact that with action purpose, intentionality is very much at the forefront. An action result could be, here's an action and the outcome, and it could have just been random. such as boats being swamped by the waves. The waves hit the boat and it just is what it is. It got swamped. The waves did not intend on sinking the ship or swamping the boat. They just hit it, and that was the result. But with action purpose, like we just saw, we intentionally humble ourselves before God with the purpose of Him lifting us up. There's not a randomness in humbling ourselves, and there's not a random nature with God lifting us up. He does those things intentionally on purpose, and we humble ourselves on purpose so that certain things will happen. Very similar words, similar kind of usage, but the difference is, and if you're going to take anything from this session, when you see an action purpose and you think it may be an action result, ask yourself, is there intentionality for the action, and is there intentionality with the purpose? If there is, more than likely you're dealing with an action purpose and not an action result. So remember, action result may or may not be intentional, may not be purposeful, but an action purpose always is. There's always intentionality with the person doing the action and with the intended result. So keep those things in mind as you read Scripture, and we'll see you again in the next session.